Previously on Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble, our hero survived the impossible, but the true nightmare has just begun, and now the story continues.
Everyone circles the freshman noble who never fills a plate. He keeps his shoulders hunched, eyes low, trying to hide the hollow in his stomach. Liao, the chatterbox, shoves a tray toward him, insisting he eat to survive the grueling drills. The noble barely touches the food, his mind racing about the secret mission he was forced into. The crowd laughs, comparing his thin frame to a starving hippo. Their mockery fuels his resolve to stay unnoticed, but each jeer chips away at his confidence.
Hey! Eat more, nutrition matters. Looks like a hippo. How many plates has she eaten?
And that's not even the worst part.
The combat shifts to rapid footwork. A tactical command mutters to call as the fighters circle. The protagonist spots an opening, thrusts forward, and yells, "Slash!" His blade slices the air, a flash of steel. The impact reverberates, and a collective erupts from the spectators, shocked by the sudden strike. He feels the adrenaline surge, his muscles screaming, but the moment grants him a sliver of hope. The cost: a trembling arm and the lingering doubt that his next move might fail. He steadies himself, eyes locked on Judith's shield. He has no idea what's waiting.
T-call, slash.
A sneering voice cuts through the tension. "Ha! Look at this kid."
You feel the sting of silence every time you try to speak. He fumbles with words, the tongue knotting as he attempts a proper confession. Frustrated, he grabs a pen instead, letting ink carry what his voice cannot. The letter lands on the table, neat and earnest, and he finally grasps why his sister prefers writing. She watches him, eyes soft, and asks, "Do you think I'll help you again because of this?" He mutters, "It's fine though," then apologizes for breaking her training rhythm. The moment cracks his resolve, exposing a fragile trust. What comes next changes everything. A voice snaps, "How childish!" It comes from the training master, eyes narrowed at the letter exchange ritual. He steps forward, eyes locked on Irene Perrier-RA. He wants to forge a regular partnership to sharpen his skill. The lingering doubt from the midterm evaluation blocks his pride, reminding him of his own deep concentration gap. He declares, "I need to tell you something too, Irene Perrier-RA." He swallows, then adds, "I want to train with you regularly from now on." He cites the previous fight, pleading, "Your deep concentration surpasses mine. Teach me." Irene's gaze softens, granting him a chance, yet the promise binds him to a demanding routine.
I need to tell you something too, Irene Perrier-RA. I want to train with you regularly from now on.
The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. Don't let the algorithm decide if you see the next chapter. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and take control. You think you can manipulate Irene after that duel? The noble clenches his fists, eyes flicking between Irene's lingering stare and his mentor's accusing gaze. He wants to harness Irene's skill to boost his own standing, believing that her defeat proves his superiority. The mentor's question blocks his plan, exposing a crack of doubt. He answers with a forced grin, insisting his intent is pure ambition, not betrayal. The tension crackles, and his classmates whisper, sensing a shift in loyalty. What comes next changes everything.
What are you up to?
You trying to use Irene after the duel?
The noble strides to the training yard, heart thudding, determined to prove he can thrive without anyone's aid. The moment stretches. Every person in the room knows what comes next. The silence between them carries more weight than the fight itself. The trainee clutches the wooden sword, nausea twisting his stomach as he curses the instructor's endless barking. He watches the master demonstrate the thrust, eyes narrowing. The instructor orders him to launch the thrust in one fluid motion, matching footwork, body, and blade. He forces his trembling limbs forward, feeling the blade slice through imagined air, avoiding a crooked stance. The effort drains his energy, but the correct alignment sparks a brief surge of confidence. He steadies his breath, ready for the next drill. He feels a tingling ripple crawl up his fingers, sharper than any scar he earned in duels. The current in his hands feels foreign, as if metal were humming beneath skin. He watches the glow spread, noticing his forearms stiffen, then his shoulders pulse. Fear claws at his mind, warning that uncontrolled power could betray him. He steadies his breath, inviting the current to flow through his entire frame. Muscles tighten, veins brighten, and the room seems to echo with a low hum. The surge fills his body, granting him a fleeting glimpse of the mastery he craves. But the real problem is already in motion. The group pauses, noting the meditation's impact. One remarks it's not as bad as expected, a small smile breaking his concentration. Another feels a calm spreading, a quiet steadiness replacing earlier jitter. A voice calls out, "Sir Lloyd?" drawing attention to the senior's arrival. The newcomer remarks the others seemed asleep, confessing he too was drifting before the session. Their exchange cements a fragile trust, each recognizing the value of shared stillness. Yet lingering fatigue hints the path ahead remains steep, and sleep still tempts their eyes. The answer is already too late.
It's not as bad as I thought.
I feel a little calmer now. Sir Lloyd? You seemed asleep. I was meditating too.
The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. This channel isn't for casual viewers. It's for the ones who actually care about the story. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. You hear the crowd roar as the final bell tolls. The arena erupts, scores flashing. 1:30 ended. On a giant board, the announcer shouts, "The winner act," while a rival yells, "This wretch, that was a foul." Judith clenches her fists, eyes blazing, demanding fairness. She charges toward the scoreboard, grabs the microphone, and bursts the silence with a defiant shout. The rival's cheat triggers a scramble. Officials scramble to restore order. Chaos spreads, but Judith's voice forces the judges to reconsider the result.
You cheated.
The tension spikes as the referee raises his hand, ready to decide. After class, the students crowd around the notice board, eyes scanning the new numbers. The overseer raises a hand, his grin widening as he promises a reward for those who surpass expectations. He wants loyalty, the trainees crave recognition. The promise of a gift tempts them to push beyond fatigue. Yet the looming deadline of 90 days looms like a blade. They tighten grips, eyes flickering with fire, willing to sacrifice sleep and safety. The overseer's eyes glitter, hinting that the gift may be more than a trinket, perhaps a secret technique or a title. Stay sub to Manwa with Hari, or you'll miss the climax. The cost? Their future hinges on this single trial. Everyone will blossom into their full potential. I've prepared a gift for you all. Jean pores over the Academy's notice, desperate to decode the final evaluation's hidden metric. He wants certainty before the trial, yet the parchment offers only cryptic hints. The Swordmaster's claim about potential ability floats in his mind, clashing with the school's emphasis on current skill. Jean questions the wording, noting the test will judge future growth rather than present strength. His peers echo the confusion, each fearing that unseen potential could tip the scales. The revelation that the contest rewards hidden talent fuels anxiety, and the looming pressure threatens to shatter their confidence.
What? How do you know evil what the criterion for the final evaluation? HNH potential ability. The Swordmaster said so. That right.
The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. The payback is going to be legendary. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari to witness it. The courtyard training ground thrums as Lord Alistair gasps, huffing through the heat. His thoughts flicker. This ain't it, he whispers, trying to summon the forgotten sword meditation. He wants to prove he can wield the blade without fear, to silence the nobles who mock his laziness. Fatigue claws his muscles. Doubt gnaws his confidence. He clamps the practiced sword, forces his breath. Eyes narrow, muscles tighten. A tremor ripples through the blade, but his grip still slips, exposing his weakness. And that's not even the worst part. Alistair steps back, eyes scanning the training mats, muttering, "I thought I was getting closer," his voice trembling with hope. The training grounds hum as you raise your stance, shouting "Hiya!" to rally yourself, while the opponent watches, unblinking. You want to find a new angle, believing a different tactic might work. The wall of his speed and strength blocks every straightforward strike, forcing you to think sideways. You experiment, testing feints, and sense a sliver of possibility, whispering maybe it is possible. Yet the bitter truth surfaces. Your current skill set can't cut him down. The cost is swallowing pride and accepting that you must evolve or lose the duel. The next move could shatter all hope.
Hiya, maybe it is possible.
The courtyard's stone tiles echo as Arya and her companion halt beside a humming crystal panel. The crystal flashes, a cold system readout marking the countdown. Arya needs to know if she's ready for the final evaluation that looms in less than 15 days. The clock's relentless tick is the obstacle, feeding doubt into her mind. She forces herself, "Are you prepared?" hoping the question will steel her nerves. A thin voice replies, "Prepared for what? The final evaluation. We have less than days left." The answer fuels urgency, but the looming deadline tightens its grip.
While trying my best to stay alive as a kid, all I did was pickpocket and steal from stores.
The courtyard erupts with the sound of a horn as the final assessment begins. The aspirant wants to prove he has finally integrated skill and mind. The looming evaluation board, stern and unforgiving, blocks his confidence. He steps forward, heart pounding, and faces the judges, their eyes like steel. The moment stretches, his training flashing in each movement, and the verdict hangs in the air. The cost is the fear that a single mistake could erase his progress. He steadies his breath, ready for the judgment.
And now,
The answer is already too late. The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. Checkmate. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. Steel clangs as trainees line up, each gripping a practice blade. Their goal: carve a perfect cross-section to prove mastery. The instructor watches, eyes narrowed, demanding speed and precision. Their hands shake, breath ragged, but they shout "Hup!" and swing. The first strike bites into iron, sending sparks flying. A second trainee follows, another "Hup!" echoing across the yard. The blade slices cleanly. Even a diagonal slash leaves a flawless cross-section. The instructor nods, yet his stare hints at deeper doubts.
of course, that makes you Judith. AOB. Such vicious sword clashes.
The duel roars on. Judith drives forward, her blade a blur, but the opponent matches every thrust with a cold, precise block. The clash escalates into a showcase of merciless swordsmanship. Every strike lands with a thunderous clang, each block a testament to iron will. Brett, standing beside the arena, fluidly parries the heavy blows, his movements seamless, as if the blade were an extension of his own arm. Judith watches his technique, noting the effortless rhythm that eludes her frantic assaults. The swordmaster's eyes flicker, measuring how far each combatant can push before fatigue gnaws at their core. Sweat drips, muscles scream, yet neither side backs down, each desperate to prove superiority before the final bell tolls. Judith gasps, "Oh!" as a sudden thrust catches her off guard, the tip grazing her cheek. She reels, shouting "Kek." Ilian steps into the northern ruin, the night air cold against his skin. He seeks the altar indicated on the parchment, hoping the wind will guide him to the hidden sigil. A sudden gale whips through the stone corridor, scattering dust and obscuring the markings. He clamps his eyes shut, feeling the pressure of the breeze, then opens them to see a faint glow outlining the characters L etched into the wall. He traces them with his thumb, the symbols humming as his bloodline reacts. The revelation spikes his chi, but the gust also tears the parchment, leaving only half the map.
The wind whispers L.
But the real problem is already in motion. The final sigil collapses into ash, and a thin veil of darkness settles over the ruin. Irene stands alone, breath shallow, the sky sword dimming in her grip. She wants to reignite its power before the darkness consumes everything. The lingering curse clings to her skin, making each movement feel like wading through syrup. She forces the blade upward, feeling the strain ripple through her arms. The cost is a trembling hand that threatens to drop the sword, and a haunting whisper that promises a greater battle ahead. The answer is already too late. Irene clamps the sky sword tighter, desperate to reignite its dying light before the darkness swallows everything. The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. The snakes are hiding in plain sight. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
You hear the final assessment echoing, and your heart pounds. Lance Peterson stands at the edge of the arena, eyes fixed on the judging panel. He wants to demonstrate his skill and survive the test. The senior examiner shouts, threatening ejection if he interferes, and mocks his daring move. Lance feels the weight of every stare, his confidence cracking. He forces a quick apology, hoping to buy a moment. The crowd quiets, tension thickening like a rope ready to snap.
Hey, you crazy fool. This is the final assessment.
I'm sorry.
The noble's eyes lock onto the figure emerging from the shadows, a cloaked stranger whose presence rattles the stale air. He feels a cold prickle at the base of his neck, the instinct that this opponent carries a secret that could topple his fragile redemption. He forces his voice low, demanding truth, while his hand tightens around the hilt. The stranger's mask slides back just enough to reveal a glint of familiar scar. The revelation hits like a blade, recognition and betrayal collide.
Who are you? He realizes his past may have followed him here. He has no idea what's waiting.
The cloaked figure steps forward, eyes blazing with a fury that matches the noble's own. Breath shallow, Brett appears in the doorway, his eyes scanning the dim hall. He wants answers about the sudden summons, but the echoing footsteps and lingering dust obscure any clear path. He pushes through the crowd, his boots stirring the stale air, and spots a flickering lantern overhead. The light catches his determined face, and he raises his head, as if challenging the unseen judge. The moment cements his resolve to confront whatever authority called him here. What comes next changes everything. The noble stands rigid in the crowded hall, his heart thudding for validation. He wants his name to echo among the top, proving his worth after weeks of disgrace. The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. This story just took a massive turn to the dark side. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. No soul across the continent recognizes my brother's name, and that anonymity fuels both pride and fear. A noblewoman steps into the courtyard, eyes fixed on the older sibling I've always admired. She drops the formal bow and declares she wants to spar with him, testing the legend nobody believes exists. My brother, silent as ever, studies her stance, his jaw tightening. The crowd holds its breath, expecting the family to refuse a challenge that could expose their weakness. The tension spikes, and the silence threatens to crack the fragile peace.
I wish to spar with your brother.
And that's not even the worst part. A seasoned swordsman steps forward, his smile widening as he recalls a youthful victory over the continent's greatest blade. He wants the young master to wear that trophy-like armor to brag forever. The elder's praise builds a fragile pedestal, but the protagonist's shoulders sag under the weight of past glory. The mentor's words echo, "It's all thanks to your teachings," while the young master hears the hollow ring of obligation. He feels the pressure to live up to a legend he never chose, and his confidence flickers like a dying torch. The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. The comments section doesn't lie. This community is insane. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and see for yourself. The training courtyard hums. Irene stands before the stern instructor, sweat glistening. The master points his own sword at Irene's chest, demanding purpose. Irene clenches his fists, heart pounding, because the guild expects a noble to wield steel. He struggles to find a grand cause, but the instructor's gaze forces him to speak. Irene finally blurts the phrase that echoes his inner doubt. His voice cracks, revealing a flicker of honesty. The blade trembles, and the real test now begins.
What is your reason for swinging your sword? Reason for swinging my sword.
You feel the weight of past neglect as Irene recalls his lonely childhood, when no family ever embraced him. He admits that back then he blurted harsh words, using his emptiness as an excuse for cruelty. A classmate scoffs, calling the excuse thin, while Irene smirks. Why are you standing there smiling like Hama? He adds, because I like peace. Their banter erupts into a chaotic shout. Your weird sayings again. Merle, Lily, fix that bad habit. The room erupts, each word sharpening old wounds, and Irene's confession burns brighter than any blade. He has no idea what's waiting.
That time I had no family, so I blurted harsh words. No, that's just another excuse.
A fresh trainee clutches his abdomen, whispering, "My stomach hurts." The senior officer, noticing the pale face, urges, "Then you should go." The trainee nods, trying to mask his discomfort, and replies, "Have a safe trip home." The senior replies, "I will," masking his own worry. The tension of the earlier delay pushes them to split, each fearing the unknown ahead. Their hurried departure spreads unease through the remaining members, who wonder if the illness is a sign.
My stomach hurts. Then you should go. Have a safe trip home. I will.
What comes next changes everything.
The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. The UI is hiding something massive. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari, and we'll figure it out.
The young master stares out the rain-slicked window, fists clenched, because the academy rejected his trainee application. His heart pounds, grief raw, yet he refuses to look away. A servant bursts in, brandishing a shining platinum crest stamped with the Lindsay family seal. The platinum label of the Lindsay family? The servant gasps, eyes wide. The master lifts the token, whispers that a friend slipped it to him. The servant blinks, mutters, "A friend." The crest glints, sparking a flicker of hope in the master's chest despite his shattered pride.
The platinum label of the Lindsay family? A friend? And that's not even the worst part.
Later, the master discovers a crumpled note left by the seer, its ink trembling with cryptic verses. There is no need to be alone to stand alone. It reads, a phrase that gnaws at his thoughts. He recalls a dream where a voice mentioned age, wondering if the seer sensed that moment. The note's meaning slips through his fingers, yet it fuels a restless urge to uncover hidden truths. The cost is sleepless nights spent chasing shadows instead of training. The answer is already too late.
There is no need to be alone to stand alone.
You feel the sting of failure as the words echo in the empty hallway. A seasoned knight, Lord Hashin, watches the exchange, his eyes narrowed. He wants to determine whether Kaido truly embodies the lazy noble label, yet the heated words cloud his judgment. Hashin steps forward, voice low, demanding clarification. The cousins pause, the firelight flickering over their faces. Hashin's query forces Ryu to justify his insult, and the tension spikes as the crowd senses a deeper challenge. The moment leaves Kaido exposed, his reputation hanging by a thread.
Is he really that deadbeat noble?
What comes next changes everything. A nearby swordsman, Jean, steps into the circle, curious about Kaido's latent skill. The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. The real fight starts now. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and don't miss a punch.
You cannot walk away now.
The courtyard erupts as a sleek black cat steps onto the marble steps, eyes glowing with arcane fire. Kirill, the lazy noble,
tries to shrug it off, hoping the creature will vanish before his duties. The cat hisses a warning, its voice echoing like a spell, demanding Kirill accept a pact that will bind his family's fortunes to a hidden relic. Kirill wants freedom from his debts, but the cat blocks his escape, clawing at his cloak and scattering ancient sigils across the ground. He swallows pride, nods, and seals the contract, feeling his lineage's weight settle on his shoulders. And that's not even the worst part.
Something bad must have happened.
The chapter ends at a breaking point for Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. Every answer opened 3 new questions. The final moment leaves everything and everyone on the edge. New skills, new stats, new dominance. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.